Batteries fully charged. Launch ready for WWE Aftershock in 3, 2, 1. World Wrestling Entertainment Discussion is live. Cue host Owen Finch.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to WWE Aftershock Season 4, Episode 12. And I'm flying solo this time. If you watched the last episode with the Summerslam portion, you'll understand why. But yeah, you're going to get a normal Aftershock. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to cover all the shows that happened this past week. I'm even going to sprinkle in some AAA stuff. I'm going to review like the 3 episodes that just aired, since that was kind of a big since those were kind of big episodes. The reason I'm doing that is I was going to make them their own video, but I thought it was going to be a 4-week special, but that's not the case. But AAA might become a part of this, since for the next few weeks, a lot of it's going to be WWE related. So let's just kind of get right into the shows. I'll kind of go through, the shows and then talk about what's been happening. So let's just get it started. We had Monday Night Raw, which took place on August 3rd, 2026. We had Michael Cole and Corey Graves on commentary for that. They showed recaps of what happened at SummerSlam. They did that a lot throughout the night. Then Roman Reigns came out to do his promo. He acknowledged Seth Rollins, and they were in Iowa, so obviously he allowed everyone to kind of sing his song and everything like that, and kind of put to rest the Seal chapter, which was, I thought, nice. And then he gets interrupted by LA Knight, and LA Knight congratulates him on retaining the World Heavyweight Championship, and says that he did it on his own. He didn't have any help from the Bloodline or anything like that. But now he wants his title shot, and he still calls Roman Reigns a fraud, because the last time they faced off one-on-one, he needed the whole Bloodline to take him down finally. Obviously, Roman Reigns doesn't accept. He tells him to go to the back of the line, and he says that LA Knight acts like a megastar, but really he doesn't dress like one, referring to his watch, because, he calls it a Walmart-style watch instead of the Rolex that Roman Reigns wears. And LA Knight had some great one-liners here, where he teased Roman Reigns about the fact that, he needs his family to back him up. He kind of talked about how LA Knight is getting the ovation and the reactions that Roman Reigns says he could have had. He does this funny moment where he mocks the Shield theme song and kind of puts his own twist on it. It was pretty funny stuff. And yeah, it was all good stuff. Obviously, this is going to be Roman Reigns' next PLE title defense. I'll get to his actual next title defense in a little bit. But I enjoyed this. I'm glad that LA Knight is going to finally go after Roman Reigns. And they're going to go down that path, just because of the fact that he's been kind of embroiled with the Vision stuff and the Bloodline stuff, especially in terms of 6-man tags. It's going to be finally nice that LA Knight's going to finally go after Roman Reigns one-on-one. And that is kind of the storyline I do like with this Roman Reigns world title run this time around. It's kind of a redemption arc for him, where he's going to go after all of his past foes that he didn't beat by himself, and he's going to basically go back down and beat him by himself. Reigns is definitely in babyface mode, but he's kind of a little bit of a tweener, because obviously the people that he's going up against have been a little bit more on the babyface side. When he faced Jacob, Jacob was the babyface. Although when he faced Seth, I would say Seth was probably more of the heel in that scenario. But that was also babyface versus babyface. And then LA Knight now, I think Reigns will probably play the de facto heel, since LA Knight is going to be more over. And yeah, that match will probably happen at Money in the Bank, I would imagine. They kind of teased that, saying like, hey, we can have it at Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is the next main roster PLE, so I imagine that match is going to happen at Money in the Bank. When I think that would be nice. Then we had, Seth Rollins I want to talk about too. I read online he's going to be taking some significant time off, which I think kind of makes sense. He kind of suffered a big loss. There's really no reason, for him to be around right now. So I would say just take some time off until they can find another storyline to put him in. So yeah, that's good. Um, and then Javon Evans faced Ethan Page. They worked really well together. They had a really good match. They always work well together when they have matches with each other. Javon Evans actually got the win. This was a really cool thing where he jumped over Ethan Page and the referee so that way he could hit him with the OG cutter. I thought that was really cool. And really cool finish. Really happy with the rise of Javon Evans. Ethan Page, I think, could do better. It seems like he's been 50-50. Sometimes he wins, sometimes he loses. So hopefully they can find something better to do with Ethan Page. But Javon Evans, I think, is doing pretty well in the main roster. Then afterwards, he gets attacked by Big Cass, who finally made his return. He laid him out with a big boot, and he just beat the crap out of him. It hit the East River Crossing, I think it's called. I might have the name of that wrong. And yeah, Big Cass is back. No Enzo. A lot of people were speculating that Enzo would be with him. But, he wasn't in any of the vignettes. So that's pretty interesting. And it'll be interesting to see what Big Cass does. I kind of thought he would come back as a babyface because his whole vignettes were about him kind of getting redemption for all the lost moments. I think it would have kind of been cool if we had him come back as a babyface, but he's going to be a heel. Hopefully they can book him pretty well, but we'll see. But overall, I thought a good return for Big Cass. And then we have some stuff backstage. The Bloodline was backstage, and Roman Reigns is upset that the Bloodline lost to LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, and Royce Keys, and is upset because obviously they've been a family, and he's trying to treat them as equals, but they can't even beat someone like a thrown-together tag team when they're supposed to be family. He chastised Jacob Fatu for obviously not knowing the difference between blood and family, since, him and Royce Keys used to go back way back in the day. And then Jey Uso says they're going to handle LA Knight, and Roman Reigns says, no, you had your chance, let me handle him. And then when Roman walks away, LA Knight walks by, kind of teasing the fact that they can't really do anything to him, which I thought was really funny. Some good stuff there. And then backstage, Jacob Fatu comes up. Well, no, sorry. Royce Keys comes up to Jacob Fatu and kind of tells him that he doesn't want to do this anymore, and says that, look, there's a way we can just put all that, whatever happened, behind us and just focus on being bros. But Jacob Fatu refuses. He says that, Royce Keys is his family. And there was a line, I don't remember the exact line, that Roman Reigns said to him earlier, that Jacob Fatu repeated here. And he challenges him to a street fight, which Royce Keys accepts. So that was good stuff there. Then we had the Judgment Day come out. They did a promo. Liv Morgan basically just bragged about how she retained a women's world title and how she's done with Io Sky, which seems to be the case considering the fact that Io Sky didn't show up on the show, and then we'll get into why that's the case in a minute. Then it led to Roxanne Perez versus Sol Ruca. What of a match. Sol Ruca was about to get the win, but then Judgment Day beat her up. They lay her out 3-on-1. And then we had the return of Becky Lynch, who we haven't seen, I think, since Clash in Italy. And she came out. She wanted to go after the title, and Raquel Rodriguez thought she meant the women's IC title. But that wasn't the case. She was talking about Liv Morgan's world title, and Liv Morgan refused. Talking about Becky Lynch should be at home raising her daughter. Becky Lynch puts her down, talking about a Liv Morgan, isn't going to go on another 100 days defending it. Mentions, that she's like the one sleeping with Dominic Mysterio, and you're not even the better one, which got cut from Netflix after re-airing. And then, Judgment Day go to leave, and then Stephanie Vaquer returns, beats up Judgment Day, and Becky and Stephanie beat up Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan escapes, and then Stephanie Vaquer and Becky Lynch have like a little bit of a stare down. And that was kind of it for that. But I enjoyed this. Happy we have some names back in the women's world title picture, because we haven't really had any. We're kind of lacking a lot of names, like I kind of mentioned in the last video. So this kind of gets some names back in the women's world title hunt. I imagine they're going to do a triple threat match at maybe Saturday night's main event, and then Money in the Bank. Liv will defend it against one of these two women, probably Becky, and then lose, and then you know, uh, that would kind of be it for that. So overall, good stuff. Um, and then we had a video package for Brock Lesnar, the same one they showed the last time, except obviously there was new footage in there since he's been back and stuff. And yeah, he actually is retired now. On the Pat McAfee show, he came on and announced that he's done. And I kind of figured that would be the case. They did leave it a little open ended, but now since he put over Obafemi, he said this is the past. But then he kind of came on here and announced, that he's done. My thoughts still stand. Obviously, I still kind of wish it would have been WrestleMania, selfishly, since I would have been there for his last match. But, Brock Lesnar, I kind of figured it would be done. I feel like he retired kind of the way I would have expected him to, where he didn't really make a big fuss about it. He just kind of showed up, put somebody over on the way out, and then just announced it on the show. I kind of like that, and the fact that he didn't make a big fuss about it, since, it would have taken away Oba's momentum. But yeah, Brock Lesnar's done. It'll be interesting to see how often we see him. I imagine next year he goes into the Hall of Fame, since WrestleMania is in Saudi. But I don't know, because obviously, they're doing a bunch of WrestleMania things in New York, so I don't know if they're going to do the Hall of Fame in New York or if they're going to do that in Saudi. Really tough to tell. But yeah, kind of surreal that Brock Lesnar's done. And I do believe at this time that they didn't do the same thing where he put his boots in the ring, because obviously no one would have bought that. But yeah, really cool for him. And yeah, kind of the last of that call-up class of OVW from 2002. Obviously there's one more left, but Cena's retired, Batista's retired, and now Brock. Obviously Randy Orton's the only one left, so that's pretty cool. So then backstage, Obafemi comes up, and him and Paul Heyman kind of have a little bit of a moment, and Paul kind of puts him over, which is pretty cool. Then Obafemi comes out to do his promo, talking about how Brock Lesnar really put him through the test and made him feel like he really is one of the boys, and now he's ready to whatever comes his way. And then the Vision come out. Braun Breaker and Obafemi have a little bit of a stare down, so it looks like that's going to be the next program next. Good. Obviously Oba's not going to challenge for the title anytime soon, so you got to find something for him to do. I think Braun Breaker is probably the only one that can really be a threat to take out Obafemi. Obviously I'd like the circumstances to be different. Braun Breaker hasn't been doing the greatest, for a little bit now, losing the cage match and then lost a lot of steam in between that. So they're going to have to really build him back up to be a threat to Obafemi. And I think that could definitely happen. Because it led to him versus Braun Breaker versus Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry got squashed. Braun destroyed him. And then afterwards, Theory beat him up because Joe Hendry took a cheap shot on the outside, and then he got saved by Akira Tozawa because he's looking for revenge for what happened to Otis. So all of this was good, I guess, in context, but I wish they would have not sacrificed Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry just kind of got squashed here. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but everything else was good, I guess, in a vacuum. Then Big Cass got interviewed, and he talked about it, how he was on rock bottom 8 years ago, and he's spent years trying to come back, and he said that he's not going to take it easy on anybody. Not the greatest promo. He definitely needs a mouthpiece. So hopefully he can find one, but whatever. Then Chad Gable did a promo about winning the IC title. He came out and thanked everybody. And then Penta came out and put him over. And then the Judgment Day came out, Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough. And Dom showed interest and wanted to get his title back. So it led to a tag match. And And in the tag match, Dom tried to cheat to win, but then the ref caught him. And behind the referee's back, Penta smacked Dom with the IC title, I think it was. And Chad beat him with the Chaos Theory. And that was it. Decent first little tag match here. Doesn't make Dom come out looking the greatest, but whatever. And then some things in between that I didn't talk about. Lila Valkyria got interviewed at some point in the show and talked about interest about going after the women's IC title, which, isn't really going to work now because Raquel is the champion and she's a heel. So they're going to have to find a way to really make that work. And then they had a backstage segment where Braun Breaker came up to Paul Heyman and kind of basically told Paul Heyman to warn Oba Femi's coming after him. So I don't know if they're going to pair them back up together. Maybe Braun Breaker leaves the Vision, and then they pair up Paul Heyman and Braun Breaker back together, because I think that pairing could work really well if it's just Braun and Paul Heyman. But we'll see. Maybe Heyman's just going to work behind the scenes now, not only be an on-screen character, but I don't really see why he wouldn't be, because I still think he's got a lot to do on screen. I think him and Braun Breaker should be paired together. I think it could really work if it's just them and not really clouded by the Vision. But we'll see. Then the main event was the street fight. It was Royce Keys versus Jacob Fatu. Really good street fight here. They both, through caution at the win, just absolutely destroyed each other. Eventually, Jacob Fatu locked in the Target Death Grip, and the ref had to start the match. And Jacob Fatu, though, wouldn't stop. He kept destroying Royce Keys. He wrapped a chair around his neck and several times did the hip attack to him. And this caused Royce Keys to bleed from the mouth, which also was cut from Netflix. And then Roman Reigns came out. They put up the ones. So kind of showing, Jacob Fatu is still loyal to Roman Reigns. But that wasn't the end of the show. Backstage, Rey Mysterio came up to Roman Reigns, and he asked him if he's aware he was the WWE general manager, and then Rey said, "I am now." So Rey and Roman went off to talk, and we found out what that was about. Obviously, WWE is going to be in Mexico towards the end of September. So Rey Mysterio announced that there's going to be a tournament kind of going on the next few weeks, where it's going to have SmackDown, Raw, and AAA superstars in it. And the winner of that's going to face Roman Reigns in Raw in Mexico, which I think is cool. I love this idea. Roman Reigns wrestling on Raw is a big deal because he never really wrestles on the television shows. And, having a AAA guy face Roman Reigns, I think is going to be cool. We already have the brackets announced. Tonight, we're going to get Penta versus... not Dragon Lee. What's his name? It's Penta versus Laredo Kid, which I think will be great. And then we're gonna get. I gotta look up the brackets because I thought I had it memorized, but I do not. So, just give me a second. I'm just gonna find it real quick. It was announced pretty recently, so I'm just gonna keep scrolling. It's going to go up because it was announced on Friday. Wasn't it announced Friday? Yeah. Yeah, so it's Penta versus Laredo Kid tonight. We're going to have Psycho Clown versus La Polka. Dragon Lee versus El Hijo, Dr. Wagner Jr., and then Rey Fenix versus El Fiscal. So yeah, this is really cool. If I had to make a guess who wins the tournament, I'll do some bracketology real quick, kind of make my own bracket. Obviously, I think Penta will beat Laredo Kid. Toss up who could win between La Polka and Psycho Clown. I'm going to say La Polka, since he's probably more well known to like a wider scale. So we get Penta versus La Polka. And then we'll do I actually think Dr. Wagner Jr. will beat Dragon Lee and Rey Fenix will be El Fiscal. Then I actually think the finals we're going to get the Lucha Bros facing off. So Penta will beat La Polka, and Rey Fenix will be Dr. Wagner Jr. We'll get Penta versus Rey Fenix. Penta will win, and I think we're going to get Roman Reigns versus Penta in Mexico. I think that makes the most sense. Penta will be really over in Mexico. Everyone will know who he is. So I think this is cool. Obviously, I think a lot of people speculate differently. Like Roman Reigns would show up at one of the AAA shows they got going on, whether that's in August or the Worlds Collide in Chicago or one of the Triple Manias in Vegas. Um, which still could happen. He could still make an appearance, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Um, but yeah, overall, I thought a really entertaining Raw coming out of SummerSlam. I'm probably going to give it like a solid B. Thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. So now going over NXT. A good episode here. It took place on August 4th, 2026. We had the commentary team of Booker T and Vic Joseph. It kicked off with Jada Parker and Thea Hale versus Nikita Lyons and Carmen Petrovich. This match was solid. Thea Hale pinned Nikita Lyons with the senton off the middle turnbuckle. And this is the second time she's pinned the Evolve Women's Champion, so I imagine she's going to get a title match either on one of the Evolve tapings or just live on NXT. And then Natty came and attacked them, but then they fought her off, and that was about it. So that was good stuff. Then Miles Bourne and Tavion Heights were backstage, and Tavion Heights wants Miles Bourne to be locked in and focus on getting the NXT tag titles, which Miles Bourne says that he is. Then Tony D did a promo, and he talked about how all these people want to go after the NXT championship, but he's forgetting that he's the champion. He does a really good promo on Grayson Waller, where he mentions, that they had their time in NXT, and he talked about all the superstars that were in the 2.0 era and now bigger stars, while Grayson Waller is still trying to figure it out. And Grayson Waller comes up, and he actually respects Tony D for speaking up and not being soft like everybody else in the locker room. And they just kind of go back and forth, and then Cruz Montana shows up and cuts a promo from the crowd saying that, he's been through the winter as well, but he went in the ring and actually solved his problems instead of just crying about it and, complaining. So, Tony D tells Cruz Montana and Grayson Waller to have a number one contenders match next week, and the winner will face him at Heat Wave. So I think that would be good. It'll be interesting to see who wins that match. I think Grayson Waller will win because I think someone's going to screw over Cruz Montana, and I'll get through who that is later in the show or later in the video. But overall, good promo segment here to set up that match. Then when QCC was backstage, and they both talk about how they're going to leave with their titles. Then we had the women's speed title match. It was Wen Sinclair versus Zalia. Whatever match. I don't really care about the speed belts. I think they need to just be put in the bin. But Zalia was, about to beat Wen Sinclair, but Wen Sinclair survived, and she lasted the whole time until she retained her title. So now she gets a North American title match, and then Zalia later out with the F5. So we'll have that match next week. Then Out the Mud were backstage, and Blanco Nima apologized to Lucian Price for kind of dropping the ball, but Lucian Price forgives him. And they said they both are just going to have to find their own pass. Birthright came up and started talking shit to him, so Lucian Price challenges Lexis King to a one-on-one match. So that was it. It's still kind of teasing tension with Out the Mud. Then Grayson Waller's backstage, and Kalani Jordan comes up and complains about not winning the NXT Women's title, and she kind of throws shade like that when she gets her first opportunity, she's going to win it right away. And then Mason Rourke comes up and takes offense of what Grayson Waller's been saying, but then Cam Hendricks attacks him from behind, and they get into a brawl, so that was kind of whatever. I thought that was fine. Then we had the NXT Tag Title match. It was Swipe White defended against Tavion Heights and Miles Bourne. Really good tag title match here. Eventually, Miles Bourne hits the zigzag, I forget what he calls it, and Tavion Heights hits the the Olympic belly to belly throw, and they beat Swipe Right. So Miles Bourne's the double champion. I was really surprised by this. I figured they would lose, and Tavion Heights would turn on him. Or, they would lose via Jackson Drake interference, since it seems like they're setting him up to be the next challenger for the North American title. But no, they gave it to Miles Bourne and Tavion Heights, which I think is pretty cool. So it'll be interesting to see what they do as champions. I don't know how long they'll have the belts for. I could see Jackson Drake like beating Miles Bourne for the belts, and then maybe they just do the NXT tag title stuff, or maybe Jackson Drake helps them win the belts back, and then it plays over to Heat Wave where Miles Bourne loses that belt. So all the Vanity Project will have the titles, and then Tavion Heights will turn on them, but we'll see what happens. And Vanity Project was backstage. They weren't happy that this happened. And they had a little face-off with Keanu Kava. So, don't know what's going to come of that. Lizzie Lane's backstage. And she talks about beating Izzy Dame. Izzy Dame comes up and said that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for Shawn Spears. And Shawn Spears comes up and says that he booked a mixed tag match next week with him and Lizzie Lane versus Izzy Dame and I think it's not Blanco Nemo, but the big guy that's with him. I forget his name, but obviously Lizzie Lane doesn't trust him, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Then we had Keanu Kava versus EK Prosper. Keanu Kava, uncharacteristically, was pretty sportsmanlike in this match, and he was kind of being a good sport towards EK Prosper, and he nearly ran into Booker T. He showed him, obviously some remorse for that. And then Keanu Kava won with the roll-up of all things, which was interesting. And then afterwards, he showed respect to EK Prosper. So interesting to see what they're going on with Keanu Kava. But whatever. Maybe they're going to tease he's going to turn face, and then he doesn't turn face. He just destroys people. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. And then Dog State did a promo backstage, and Dion Lennox is upset that Dog State's kind of cool being complacent. They won the match, but they didn't really, solve anything. So next week, he's going to face Shaquan Sugars and get Dog State back on track. So be interesting to see if that happens. Then Charlotte Hill does a promo. He says that, he got hurt last week, so he's going to be out for a little bit. So that was about it for that. Then it showed a video package for Dory Funk Jr. because he just passed away that day. So they did a nice little tribute for him. Then Mr. Stone's backstage. He's on the phone with somebody. And then Cruz Montana comes up to him. And Mr. Stone makes the match official between Cruz Montana and Grayson Waller. And then Tristan Angels comes up and kind of throws shade that Cruz Montana's getting an opportunity before him since he's been here grinding. And I like this because he mentions that he was there before. He didn't see Tristan Angels there. So he says that maybe they'll see each other very soon. So that's what I think's going to happen. I think this is going to be actually Cruz Montana's first feud on the main, in WWE. I imagine that Tristan Angels will cost Cruz Montana the title match or the number one contendership, and then it's going to lead to Grayson Waller versus Tony D, and also maybe Cruz Montana versus Tristan Angels at Heat Wave. So I think that would make a lot of sense. Then the main event was the NXT Underground match for the NXT Women's title. Lola Vice versus Kendall Gray. Not really that good of an Underground match. Probably the worst one I've seen since NXT started doing this. I didn't really care for it. A lot of moments didn't really make sense about this match. They did a clean break, as if it was a rope break, but there's no ropes, so that didn't really make sense. Kendall Gray got a bell run. So obviously they had to stop the match to clean him up a little bit, so the whole match got put on hold. And then at the end, it just really didn't make any sense. Lola Vice was having the whole match and hitting elbows on Kendall Gray. And then Kendall Gray got her with an armbar. And obviously she got her in a good armbar, but Lola Vice tapped out way too easily. So it's whatever there. Kendall Gray retains. Afterwards, Lola Vice raised her hand, put her over. So obviously they tease Lola Vice is going to be done with NXT. Which makes sense. She just lost the AAA mixed tag titles, and now she just lost this match. There's really nothing more Lola Vice could really do in NXT. And she did have that line where she mentioned that when Kendall Gray's run on top happens, it's not gonna be while she's around. So obviously now that Lola Vice is lost, there's no reason to keep her around. I imagine if I had to make a guess, they announced that Sol Luca's going to have a mystery tag team partner against Roxanne Perez and I think Raquel Rodriguez this week. So I imagine maybe Lola Vice will be the tag team partner, and she'll be on Raw. Um, but I don't see why she'd be on Raw because Damian Priest is on SmackDown. They're dating, so like they usually try to keep couples together. So I don't see why they would do that. But whatever. Um, but yeah, I didn't really care for this underground match. I hope this is the last one. I don't really see why they do another one since Lola Vice is like this was kind of like her match, and the only other people that really did this are released. It'll be interesting to see if this is the last one. But I imagine maybe this will just be Kendra Gray's match. But yeah, they shouldn't have done an underground match. I think that really held the match back. Um, they should have just done 2 out of 3 falls or maybe just a straight up rematch where the only way you can win is by pinfall or submission, but not do a street fight. Just have a grapple. Maybe a submission match would have been better. But they shouldn't have done an underground match. So Kendra Gray's women's title reign's done off to a great start. She had a great match with Natty, but she's had some bad promos, and then this match here wasn't the greatest, and this was supposed to be, I think, a coming out party for her, but that didn't happen. So hopefully it can turn around, but I'm kind of doubting that's going to turn around immediately because I imagine her next challenger is going to be Kalani Jordan, and I don't really care for her as a heel. I don't really care about the feud, so that's going to be rough. So hopefully they can get a good title match out of Kendra Gray. But yeah, Lola Vice being out of NXT, I think would be nice. But that was NXT. I thought it was pretty solid. I'll give this like a B minus. I think I'd probably go B had the main event delivered better. But other than that, I thought it was pretty solid stuff. Pretty significant episode of NXT. So then we had Evolve. Um. I don't. According to this, it's season 2, episode 23. We had Mr. Stone and Blake Howard on commentary for that. I don't know what Peter Rosenberg's been, but I'm wondering if he just couldn't make those tapings because, obviously Evolve's taped a few weeks in advance. So I imagine he just can't be he just probably couldn't be at the tapings that week. So they had Mr. Stone fill in for him. I imagine the new set of tapings, Peter Rosenberg will be back, but we'll see. So the cold opened, everyone kind of did a promo. In the main events, announcing their aspirations to win the Evolve title, which was Aaron Warlock, Christian Angels, Max Abrams, and Harlem Lewis. And then we had a really bad promo with the Mog Squad, where they just talked about how great they were, and it was just really bad, and it lasted a very long time. Just went on forever. Was really annoying, really not anything worth getting excited about. So really bad promo. It led to a match with them. Well, not them, but Jakari Ball and Santi Rivera versus Shuto Ash and Victor Zunov. It was an alright match. Victor Ash and Zunov won with a assisted German suplex. I do like them as a team. Shuto Ash and Victor Zunov. I kind of like that it's like a jiu-jitsu type team. It's something we haven't really seen much in wrestling. The only ones I can think of that would be close is obviously Red Dragon, the former Undisputed Era members Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish from NXT. But they were also indie wrestlers. They weren't just straight out like judo wrestlers. So they kind of remind me of that. But yeah, I hope they can get some Evolve tag titles because they kept talking about the top tag team in Evolve, and there's no Evolve tag titles. So I don't know if they're gonna get some, but we'll see. Then Marcus Mathers, Noam Dar, and Romeo Moreno were backstage. They're upset about, well, Marcus Mathers, anyways, is upset about how things have been going. And he wants to get his hands on, like, Cappuccino Jones, and just as upset at how ID has fallen. So, Itzgal comes up and talks shit to him and gloats about the fact that he's finally won a match. So it leads to a match between Cappuccino Jones and Itzgal. That was about it. Then we had Skylar Ray versus Anya Rue. Great Finn Skylar Ray won Evolve Season 1. Not Evolve, LFG Season 2. The whole thing about winning LFG is that you're supposed to, like, be on NXT. And she's been on NXT, like, I think twice, and she just got demoted down to Evolve. Same thing happened to, um, I forget her name, but Tamara Stock is, I think, a real name, but it's, you know, Tyler May Steele. Same thing happened to Tyler May Steele, and then she just got released. I could see something very similar happening to Skylar Ray if things will turn around soon. So she did win. She won with the Frog Splash, I think, and afterwards, Gianna Capri, I think her name is, beat up Anya Rue because they've been feuding. This was really weirdly laid out because Skylar Ray was there, and then like they didn't really focus on her after this, so I guess she just let Gianna Capri beat her up. But obviously they're feuding, so it's whatever. I don't mind the feud. Anya Rue's got a decent character. It's basically she's the anime girl, and she thinks she can like put on all these spells on people. So that's pretty decent, I guess. Then Elijah Holyfield does a promo where he talks about how he wants Brooke Jensen's to be a man and like face him without cheating and try to beat him. So it was fine. Then Timothy Thatcher is backstage and he just kind of announces like the Evolve title match. I'm pretty sure he made some type of match with somebody. I forget who it was. And then Starboy comes in. I forget what his name is, but Starboy comes in and he wants to face Cappuccino Jones next week. But Timothy Thatcher, since he can't make the match, since he already made the match between Cap and It's Go, so he wants to be added to the match and make it a triple threat, and Timothy Thatcher accepts. And that was it. So I imagine in that triple threat match, Starboy and Cappuccino Jones are going to be so focused on trying to take each other out, it's going to allow It's Go to win. And maybe it's going to, like, really cause them to implode. So then we had the main event. It was the Evolve title match. It was Aaron Rourke, Tristan Angels, Max Abrams, and Harlem Lewis. It was a good four-way. The only thing I didn't really like about it was like Tristan Angels really didn't get anything to do. There's no real big moment he had in the match. Everybody else had a pretty big moment. But eventually Harlem Lewis beat Max Abrams with his finisher. And this was kind of after like Aaron Rourke kind of did all the work. But then he threw him out of the ring and did his finish. So there's that. And that was it. Harlem Lewis won. Afterwards, he has a face-off and like shit talk with Holly Wiggins. He was watching for the VIP section. So, but a good Evolve main event. And that was basically it. That was Evolve. I thought Evolve was solid. I'll give it like a B-. Again, I would have just cut the Mog Squad promo. That group is not good. But other than that, everything else was fine on this show. I imagine pretty soon Tristan Angels is going to get written off. He's basically going to just be in NXT full time. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen with Aaron Rourke pretty soon. I imagine they're building, it seems like, to Harlem Lewis versus Aaron Rourke in like a big one-on-one rematch. I imagine he'll lose that match. And then he'll be up on NXT full time, which I think would be good for him. Because I think he really stand out in NXT since he just stands out just because his character is just so different from everybody. So I think that would be cool. And then we have main events. I don't know if I took notes on main events. I don't think I did. I don't see notes here. But if I had to remember what happened on main events, Ivy Nile faced PJ Vasa. It was a good match. They kind of messed up the finish where Ivy Nile tried to hit a finisher, but she couldn't really get her up. So they had to do a different finish, I think, because they had PJ Vasa kick out of it, and they just did it again. Luckily, she was able to hit it again the second time, so that was good. And then I'm pretty sure that we had Romeo Moreno and Noam Dar versus the Creed Brothers, American Made. Creed Brothers won, which makes sense. They needed to win, so. But the match itself was good. And then I think we had Ricky Saints versus Carmelo Hayes. Where Carmelo Hayes won. Kind of sucks to be Ricky Saints right now. He's really not doing the greatest on the main roster at the moment. He hasn't been on SmackDown in weeks. And then, Yeah, he hasn't been. Yeah, hasn't been on SmackDown in weeks, and he lost here to Carmelo Hayes. So hopefully they can turn his career around. Because he's not really involved in a big angle or anything like that, and it hasn't been the greatest for him since he's joined SmackDown. So hopefully they can turn his career around. Because I think at the moment, if I had to say Ethan Page, of all the NXT call-ups right now, I don't think he's doing the worst. I would say probably Joe Hendry is doing the worst since he was off television for a while. He had a concert segment that bombed, and then just got jobbed out by Braun Breaker. Whereas, you know, Ethan Page at least gets a win here and there. Ricky Saints at least is being booked somewhere, even though it's main event, but he's at least being booked somewhere. And, he's not completely off the shows. So Luca at least got a big win, and she just had a women's IC title run, even though that wasn't that great. I'm trying to think of all the recent call-ups. Actually, Jordan Grace might be the one that's doing the worst because, she got completely relegated, can't even get a win on main event. So, whatever. But let's go through the rest of SmackDown. Well, I haven't even covered actually SmackDown. Let's go through SmackDown. The commentary team for that was Wade Barrett and Joe Tessitore. SmackDown took place August 6th, I think it was. Because the 8th was... Well, actually, is today the 10th? Yeah, today's the 10th. So, the 9th was yesterday. The 8th was Saturday. So, it's actually... This is the 7th. Cody Rhodes came out. He wanted to fight Randy Orton. But... Randy Orton doesn't come out, so Cody kind of keeps talking, and he kind of wants, he says that he assumes CM Punk didn't know about Cody Rhodes about to interfere in the match, so then CM Punk comes out, and he says that he didn't know, but he tells Cody basically that whenever he wants a rematch for the title, he'll give him one, and Cody Rhodes says that he's going to finish his business with Randy Orton, and then win the championship, or face Punk for the title. So he leaves. Kevin Owens comes out. I like this awkward moment with Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes since, the last time they came in contact was that ladder match at the Rumble last year. So kind of showing that, they haven't really put anything to rest. And again, I kind of like they're not really doing this well, but they're kind of talking about how Cody Rhodes has, some trust issues since, everyone basically at WrestleMania 40 that hold his hand up when he won the title was turned on him. I think the only one that has it is Punk, but everybody else pretty much has, or has had some type of falling out with Cody, I should say. So, Kevin Owens and CM Punk get into the ring, and they talked with each other off mic, saying that they're going to try to be professional. And they had a really good promo segment here. You really should just go watch it. It's so good. Where, Kevin Owens talks about how he hates CM Punk because he's become everything that he hates. And he says that he's proven him right about the man that he thought he was. CM Punk talked about how he broke the mold and got Kevin Owens a contract since no one was really looking for indie stars before. And, yeah, they just had a really good promo segment here. They finally got into a shoving match and stuff. And yeah, I would just really recommend you watch it. It was really good stuff. I really just can't do it justice. Just go watch it. Charlotte Flair got interviewed to talk about how she's going to finally put an end to Jade Cargill. Then we had Trick Williams versus Baron Corbin for the U.S. title. It was a good match. I actually thought this was better than the SummerSlam match. I wish this had just been the SummerSlam match. But Baron Corbin won. He hit Trick Williams off the head with the title and won the match that way. And that was it. I don't think this hurts Trick Williams. I'm guessing they're going to get him out of the U.S. title picture. And I think, if I had to make a guess, he's winning Money in the Bank this year. Because they took the belt off him at SummerSlam. And then he had him lose his rematch here. I imagine they're going to do, for the next few weeks, they're going to do qualifiers. He'll be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. I think he's the perfect guy to win because the WWE title picture, it's pretty full right now, but, it'll be October, and because Money in the Bank's later, my thinking is he'll have that briefcase for a while. He can really customize it, make it his own, and he could kind of be the looming threat, and you don't even have to have him cash in anytime soon. You can legit push that off as far as you want, since Money in the Bank is late this year. So, because I don't think Oba needs the briefcase to get. I think he's going to win the Rumble actually to face the world champion and get the match that way. Um, and there's no other star right now that is big enough to really get the briefcase. I think Trick Williams would continue his rise. So let's hope that can happen. And then Nick Aldis is backstage. Sami Zayn comes up to him and complains about the fact that Nick Aldis basically screwed him over at SummerSlam. But then Kevin Owens comes up, and they kind of have an awkward moment. And, Sammy's upset that Kevin Owens basically took his spot, but is happy he's back. And Kevin Owens says that Sami Zayn probably would have done the same thing. And he says he's warranted that spot since the last time he had a match, he beat Sami in the unsanctioned match. And then before Nick Aldis walked off, KO says that he wants to have his title match. I think he said the August 21st episode of SmackDown. So that would be cool. And he says, that Sammy wishes him luck, and he says that, if you need help winning the title, just tell me when. So I imagine they're going to do another feud. I imagine on that episode of SmackDown, Sami Zayn's going to try to help KO win, but it'll cost KO the match, and that will lead to another KO Sammy program, which I think will be cool. Then Baron Corbin gets interviewed, and talks about, how he takes offense that everyone kind of thought was an upset that he beat Trick Williams, which I don't blame him since he's the veteran, and, Trick isn't the veteran, but whatever. And then he gets attacked by Carmelo Hayes, and Carmelo Hayes tells him that on SmackDown next week, since it's in his hometown in Boston, he's going to have a U.S. title match with Trick Williams. Well, not Trick Williams, with Baron Corbin. I imagine, if I had to make a guess, I think Corbin wins that match, and maybe they do a triple threat with these guys. Maybe it won't be for the title, but it'll be the winner gets into the Money in the Bank ladder match. Trick will win. And then they'll somehow use that to continue the Mello Corbin feud for the title. That'll be interesting. Then Chelsea Green comes out to do a promo. She talks about winning the women's title. She brings out Tiffany Stratton. And she apologizes for knocking Tiffany off the ladder before anything can really get done with it. The Fatal Influence interrupts, and JC Jane says that since Tiffany Stratton cost her a chance to get into the ladder match, she wants to take Tiffany Stratton's title. So Tiffany accepts if Fallon Henley and Lainey Reed put the put the women's tag titles on the line against Chelsea Green and Tiffany Stratton, which is what happens. They lose. JC Jane attacked Tiffany, which caused Chelsea to get distracted, and Fatal Influence won. And then afterwards, it was just the Forces come out, and Nia Jax stands over Chelsea Green, holding up the title. So, I really didn't care for any of this. They really didn't do a good job on Chelsea Green's first episode of SmackDown, making her look like a credible champion, since this whole thing was more about Tiffany Stratton than Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green took a loss in this match, which shouldn't have happened. And then, it was more about Tiffany Stratton than anything else, so I really didn't care for this. And, now we know that the interim championship is gone. Rhea Ripley had her surgery. She's going to be out longer than they said. And, now Chelsea Green is the legitimate women's champion. They should have just done that to begin with, but whatever. But now there's another problem. Chelsea Green now has an injury. She got injured in the women's tag title match. She broke her orbital bone. Who knows how long she'll be out for. I imagine what's going to happen is don't necessarily have to announce anything. It's still early days. We don't know how long she's going to be out for. If she's only out a couple weeks, they can just have her do promos and do stuff that way. She doesn't necessarily have to come back, so they can obviously have that happen. But yeah, really, really disappointed. This it feels like the women's championship now is cursed. The Vision originally was cursed, but now the women's champion is, because it seems like whoever has that title, there's some type of injury that happens. When Jade had it, Meechin got hurt, so they couldn't do their match, so they had to swap in Jordan Grace, which then she got hurt out of all that, and now her career got fucked over. And then now Rhea just got hurt, that fucked them over. And Rhea's gone, and now Chelsea Green's hurt. So, and I could see WWE not wanting to crown a new champion either, because they just did that, and now they don't want to do it again. So I could see something happening with Chelsea Green. If she's not going to be out that long, she just shows up with the title, and just does promos and stuff, and they try to use stuff that way. But whatever. Then I think we had a Jade Cargill interview, which was whatever. Earlier in Charlotte's interview, she asked Jade to leave Beachin in the back, and Jade, I guess, here just kind of talked down Charlotte Flair some more. Then Randy Orton comes out, and before he could say anything, Cody Rhodes comes out, Randy Orton backs down. They act like he's going to get them in the fight. But Randy Orton says that the reason he cost Cody his title is because Cody Rhodes is the one that told him to bring out the best version of Randy Orton. And he did that. He thought he was going to get number 15, but then that didn't happen. And because Cody beat the best version of Randy Orton, he wants to make sure that Cody Rhodes never holds the title again. Because if he's going to get number 15, it's not going to be at the expense of Cody Rhodes, since Cody Rhodes beat the best version of Randy Orton. I actually kind of like that. We've seen this happen before, but I think it's kind of cool that basically Randy Orton's going to make sure Cody never gets the title. He knows that Cody Rhodes can beat the best version of him, so him losing the title, and making sure he never gets to hold it again will be pretty cool. Then Cody Rhodes talked about how Randy Orton used to call himself the Legend Killer, but ever since then. You're kind of a legend yourself now. Who's going to kill you? So that was all good stuff. I imagine they're going to have a match maybe at Saturday night's main event. Well, not Sunday night's main event, not Saturday night's main event. And, one will win. So I think that'll be cool stuff. So good stuff. Then, let's see. Then Sami Zayn was backstage. He's talking to Johnny Gargano. He's upset how things have turned out. CM Punk comes up to him, and Sami Zayn talks shit to him, saying that CM Punk's a fraud, and he says he deserves justice, and he says he has a broken hand, and if he wasn't broken, he breaks Punk's jaw. But Punk said that wouldn't happen, because if you were going to do it, you would have done it when we faced off for the title, and that was basically it. And Sami Zayn's upset with Johnny that he's let him talk like that. Johnny Gargano is still on that crate, just depressed. That storyline needs to come to an end. That's been going on since basically February, I think. Because, I think January, because it was when Ciampa left. So they really need to end that storyline soon. But whatever. Then I'm pretty sure I missed a Damian Priest backstage segment where he's upset about the fact that he has to deal with the MFTs again since they've already dealt with them. And the War Raiders obviously still want the titles. So R-Truth comes up and says that he made Nick Aldis made a triple threat tag title match with MFTs versus Damian Priest and R-Truth versus the War Raiders. And Damian Priest is upset because it was only for their titles, not the War Raiders AAA tag team titles. So I like that. I hope MFTs win the belts. Because it's time for Truth and Damian to finally drop their titles. But we'll see. And then Shinsuke Nakamura is backstage doing a promo, and he basically says, that he's going to come after the MFTs, and he's not going to do it alone. So I'm not sure who's that setting up, if that's setting up Naito, because they used to team in Japan, or if that's just going to set up Finn Balor, since, Finn Balor has had issues with them. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. That's why I think the Tongans should get the tag titles, because then you can get a kick-ass tag title match with Shinsuke Nakamura, whoever his partner is, versus them. And I think you could do that for a while. Then we had the main event. It was Charlotte Flair versus Jade Cargill. Pretty botchy match, but it was fine enough for what it was, I guess. The botches were kind of hard for me to notice because my cable box, like, did this weird thing where I was on a 5 second delay where I would see something happen and then I wouldn't hear about it for like 5 seconds. Like the noise, like the sound was off. But Beach had come out to interfere, and then it brings out Alexa Bliss, and the lights go out when they come back on. Tatum Paxley's up on the turnbuckle. She dives on Beachin, and then Charlotte Flair hits the natural selection for the win. And she celebrates with Tatum Paxley and Alexa Bliss. Really happy for Tatum Paxley that she finally got called up. She's been busting her ass in NXT for years. I remember back in Aftershock, Chris Dodd and I used to say that she was basically like the jobber, the house show girl. So it's kind of cool to see where she's risen since. Would have been better, I guess, if she went to Raw. I say that because Lyra's on Raw. She's kind of going through this breakdown crisis right now. It would have been kind of cool to see them come together and do a feud or something, since they used to have history in NXT. It would have been cool to kind of see that play over to the main roster. But, I think going to SmackDown's fine. I think, like, Charlotte Flair, like, if they're going to do a trio with this, I think Charlotte Flair will be the one going for the singles belts, and then maybe they're going to have Alexa Bliss and Tatum team up, which I think could be pretty entertaining. So, I think that'd be cool stuff. I thought SmackDown was really great. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a B+. The Kevin Owens CM Punk stuff really carried it, but everything else was pretty good. I liked the U.S. title match. I liked, the Randy Orton Cody stuff. The Charlotte Flair Jade Cargill match and Tatum's call up was pretty cool. And then that's about, yeah, it's good stuff. I would have liked another match in there. It seemed like 3 matches we only really got, so I would have liked another match in there. Backstage, I didn't show it on the show, but Ray Phoenix and Ricky Sainz got into a little bit of a exchange. So it seems like maybe next week Ray Phoenix is going to defend the Cruiserweight title against him. They're going to set that up for the future. I wouldn't mind if Ricky Sainz won the Cruiserweight title from AAA. You could get some cool stuff from Ricky Sainz in AAA. And it makes sense because Taker, I think, would be pretty high on him since, he trained with them, like, going into the WrestleMania, like, 34 match that he had with Cena. So, that'd be cool stuff. That's kind of it for the main roster and the NXT stuff. There's one other news thing, and that the Royal Rumble finally has a location now. It's going to be in Arizona. A lot of people aren't happy about this for some reason, but I'm okay with this. I kind of like the fact that that the main four is not going to go to, like, the traditional cities like, like a Chicago or Boston and stuff. I kind of like the smaller cities are going to get some love. So it's kind of cool. I heard they're thinking about making that 2 nights now. Which I think actually is going to benefit the Rumble. I actually kind of like this idea because I feel like the Rumble is still one of those shows that's being suffered for being one night, because when you have 2 Rumble matches the same night, I feel like one always overshines the other. So having 2 Rumble, having Rumble be 2 nights would be good, because you could do the women's one night and then the men's the other night. So I think that would be great for the Royal Rumble. Surprised they didn't do it this year. With it being in Saudi, you thought Saudi would want to get their fix in, but yeah. And if that happens, basically most of the big 4 will be one night, so will be 2 nights. You could do it with Survivor Series, but I don't think Survivor Series needs to be 2 nights, since I think you can get I think you can get that all in one night. I just think the Rumble needs to be 2 nights, because then this way you can. Not one Rumble match is taken away from the other. So I just kind of hope they can structure the cards better, like where both nights you could get, like, good quality shows. Because obviously SummerSlam suffered from that this year, where one night was better than the other. Obviously, people are going to have their opinions about one night's better than the other, but you could definitely tell there's a drop down in quality with one of the nights. Obviously, WrestleMania suffered from that this year, so hopefully they can sort that out. But yeah, let's go over some AAA. I said I covered on this show. It was Verne di Escalante. I don't know how to say that, but it was basically that show. let's kind of go. I'll kind of go over it a little bit. So it's kicked off with I wrote Rey Mysterio's announcement. But I don't remember what his announcement was because it wouldn't. Oh, I guess his announcement was. I guess it wasn't an announcement. He just kind of came out and welcomed everybody, and then Dorian, um, and Omos came out, and Dorian wanted Rey to overturn the decision and give Omos his Latin American title back. On commentary, by the way, for the English side of things, was JBL and Corey Graves, and obviously they would swap out the English translator. It was someone I didn't know, and then obviously one of the weeks it was Ray. So, um, and yeah, so Ray refused to give him the title, and obviously Dorian and Omos said there's gonna be consequences for this. So, I guess we kind of found out what that was later in the night. Um, then we had Dominic Mysterio backstage, and um, you know, he went up to El Grande Americano, came up to him, and he wanted to make sure Dominic wasn't working with Los Perros del Mal, but Dominic Mysterio says that he's not, and he said that he has El Grande Americano's back. And then that I don't remember what the first match was because I didn't write it down. I think I forgot because it wasn't just one. Unless the first show, um, you know, just went long. So, but I'm just gonna check real quick. I don't remember what the first match was of night one. Oh yeah, okay. So then we had the AAA mixed tag title match. It was Lahara and Laredo Kid versus Lola Vice and Mr. Iguana. Um, and then, if they lost, if Laredo Kid and Lahara lost, this would be Lahara's last chance at the mixed tag titles. And it was a good match. I give it like 3 stars. Good mixed tag team stuff. And eventually, Lahara and Laredo Kid won when Lahara hit like the hip attack to Lola Vice and beat her. Um, Makes sense, I guess, since Lola Vice is going to be called up. As we've seen with AAA, if you're the main roster representative, there's not as much time to be in AAA. I think Laredo Kid and her can do some good things as mixed tag team champions. I think there was more they probably could have done with Lola Vice and Mr. Iguana as tag champions, especially with Triple Mania being so close. I really wish they could have gotten some more mileage out of it, but it's whatever. But it was good stuff. I give it like 3 stars. And then Rey Mysterio made an announcement, and he kind of did a press conference, and talked about how he's gotten AAA some nice exposure. He says that he's still working on some things. He announced the next few matches coming up. That's about it. Then Daga and Angel Garza faced El Grande Americano and Dominic Mysterio. I was shocked it was Daga and Angel Garza. I figured it would have been Los Garzas, but they went with Daga and Angel Garza, which I think is pretty cool. And yeah, they had a really great match. Very overbooked, but I still loved it. Eventually, Los Americanos came out to try to run interference against Los Perros del Mal, which they were decently successful at. And then, eventually, when El Grande Americano went to make the tag to Dominic Mysterio, he turned on him, and it caused Los Perros del Mal to beat them. And afterwards, Dominic Mysterio aligned himself with Dorian and Omos and basically took Vikingo's place. But I love how all this was put together. I thought this was great how it went down. I figured, obviously, like I said, I predicted that Dominic Mysterio would turn. I thought he'd join Los Perros del Mal, but that did not happen since, he joined Dorian's group. But I actually kind of like the way they went about it better. Dominic Mysterio and Dorian and Omos could be really cool, like act together. And it wouldn't have made sense by that point if Dom did turn, because they would beat the crap out of him in this match. Like, he took an apron powerbomb and everything like that. So I think it makes sense he didn't join that group, but I like the fact that he's still going to get his own faction out of it. Obviously, I would have liked if Dom went babyface, but it makes sense for him to be a heel in this feud since El Grande Americano is going to be really over in Mexico, as well as Dom. And yeah, I think it makes sense to go this path. The match was great, though. I give it 4 stars. I really loved it. Then we had week 2. I liked week 1, though. I think out of all the weeks, week 1 was probably the best week. But that might be just based on how I was personally feeling. Because then we have week 2. And I liked week 2, but this was after I had watched SummerSlam. And I just watched the press conference and everything. And then, obviously, week 2 kind of took place immediately after SummerSlam. So I was a little burnt watching wrestling. So, week 2, we had the code open, which kind of showed everything. It kicked off with, and it showed like Dom's promo that he did backstage afterwards after he turned on El Grande Americano. And then we had the second of the triple threat matches for the Latin American Championship Tournament qualifiers. It was Lince Dorado versus Mecha Wolf versus La Polka. I thought this was a great match. It might have been, yeah, this was the best match of like SummerSlam weekend, I think. Well, up until that point, obviously Roman and Seth was the better one, but this one was like a close second if we're gonna count that. And yeah, I love this. I'm pretty sure this was the match Dragon Lee was supposed to be in, but because of his injury, he had to pull out, so Lince Dorado swapped in for him. But yeah, all these 3 guys worked great together. It was really unpredictable who was going to win. I kind of figured it'd be La Polka, but they really made it seem like it could have been any of these guys. But eventually, La Polka did win. And I like the fact that he didn't just barely win. Like, everyone kind of got the moments of shy, but La Polka like was putting together at the end like a really great sequence of moves and eventually finally won. So I love that. And yeah, that was basically it. I thought the match was great. I give it 4 stars. I thought it was great stuff. Then it shows Psycho Surfica surviving, and somebody was watching them from like the locker room and stuff. So not much famous from that. And then Los Perez Del Mal did a promo talking about winning the tag match. And then we had Daga, like it's supposed to say, and Doamico, or Doamico, I don't know how to say that name, but versus Galeno and Dr. Magda Jr. Good match to showcase them as a team. Galeno and Dr. Magda Jr. won, which I think makes sense. But it was a good match. I'll give it like 3 stars. Good tag match. Good showcase for Galeno and Dr. Magda Jr. as a team. I imagine, well, maybe not a Triple Mania since Dr. Magda Jr. is in the Latin American Championship qualifier. But I imagine in the future we'll get War Raiders versus them for the tag titles, which I think could be really good stuff. And then we had the main event. It showed Rey Fenix defending the World Cruiserweight Championship against Mini Vikingo. This was very good. I think this was supposed to be Vikingo versus Mini Vikingo for the Latin American title, but obviously because Vikingo got hurt, they swapped it in with this match. But this was very good stuff. It was basically, the story was Rey Fenix was the more experienced veteran, while Vikingo was like the young upstart, but they gave Vikingo a lot of good moments in the match, but eventually Rey Fenix won with the Muscle Buster. But I thought it was very good. I give it 3 3/4 stars. Afterwards, they showed respect for each other. And then backstage, Dorian came up and wanted to join. Basically, they're doing an angle where he wants Mini Vikingo to join him. And I hope that doesn't happen. I don't really think he needs to join that group, but we'll see. But yeah, overall, very good match. 3 3/4 stars. I liked week 2. If I had to grade the shows, I would probably give week 1 a B+. I thought that was great. Week 2 is probably like a B. I would have liked it more, but then, I had watched SummerSlam all day. And then week 3, I really liked. We had Cruz del Toro versus El Fiscal versus Psycho Clown and the Latin American Championship Tournament qualifier. Very good high flying match right here. I thought all these guys showcased themselves very well. Cruz del Toro played the heel where he acted like he was gonna go for a dive and then he didn't. And Psycho Clown was doing well, but then somebody comes up, like some creepy figure comes up from the crowd and attacks him, completely beats the crap out of him, choke slams him onto some chairs out there, and he attacks the fans. And then obviously this is the mystery attacker that's been attacking Psycho Circus. Who this actually is Drake Monroe. Obviously, if you watch LFG, I think it's like the second episode of season 3. Shawn Michaels like announced that he was going to go to AAA. Obviously, now we've finally seen him. He's been the mystery attacker for Psycho Circus. I like this reveal a lot. You know, this makes him look like a really good monster, and I like this better than just Pagano turning heel and attacking Psycho Circus. So I do like this a lot. And yeah, I imagine this is going to be like one of the matches that happens at Triple Mania. I imagine we're going to get like Psycho Clown versus whatever Drake Monroe's name going to be as this gimmick. I think this gimmick's going to do real wonders for him too, because the Bayou Boy gimmick sucked. So I'm glad that they're going to give him a monstrous gimmick, and I think this is going to be cool. And I think he's going to fit in well with AAA. You know, a lot of his high flying moves, I think the Lucha wrestlers will be able to take. I think, Psycho Clown's going to get him over really well. If this gimmick can like catch fire, I think this will be good for him. So I think this is going to be good for Drake Monroe. But the match itself is very good. I give it 3 3/4 stars. Then Rey Mysterio made his announcement about the tournament. Then we had Noisy Boy versus Jack Cartwheel. All I can say is just go watch this match. It was great stuff. Just really great high-flying stuff. Jack Cartwheel won with the 450. I'm glad that or like the shooting star press. It was like a cartwheel into like a shooting star press. I'm really glad to see him back. Then afterwards, they get attacked by Los Perros Del Mal, and they do a promo about fearing him. They bring in Breeze 666, like one of the original members, and it seems like he's going to be the manager of Los Perros Del Mal, so I think that's pretty cool. If I had to make a guess, I imagine the next feud they're going to have is, I think they're going to just get like some AAA guys together, like a Psycho Clown, maybe not Psycho Clown, but maybe like a Jack Cartwheel and some other OGs that they've been attacking, maybe Al Fiscal, or I guess not, because he's in the four-way, but they'll get some, maybe Albismo Negro, since they've attacked him. They'll get some AAA guys to face, Los Perros Del Mal. They'll attack him, they'll beat him up, and we'll get some type of multi-person tag match. We might get it there, or we might get it at like Triple Mania. Well, I'm pretty sure they're supposed to do a crossover show with NXT and AAA. So something cool that could happen is Lucian Price could be on the other team. Because they've been kind of building some tension between Brock O'Neill and Lucian Price. It'd be cool if he's on the team, but we'll see if that happens. Then Dominic Mysterio does this really cool interview where he talked about his purpose, about why he turned in El Grande Americano. He talked about like how he's the real kid of the luchadors, and he took offense that El Grande Americano didn't trust him. And he talked about how he became the big face of Mexico, and said that he let him carve that path, and says that he's going to use that to prove he really is the king of the luchadors. And he said that the reason he aligned with Dorian is because Dorian was supposed to be the general manager of AAA, but he got shafted by his father. And, it makes sense why he would align with them, because obviously Ray's the AAA general manager. And then Liv Morgan comes in. He says, I got better things to do. I like this. Dom came off very well here. He announced that he's going to confront El Grande Americano. And, that's going to be the big thing for next week. So I'm looking forward to that. Then we had the main event. It was the triple threat match for the Reina de Reinas championship. It was Lady Shanae versus La Catalina versus Lady Flamo, who was defending her title. Very good. I thought a very good triple threat. Everyone kind of got a chance to showcase themselves. La Catalina hit a finisher for the win, but Lady Flamo threw her out of the ring and took the win for herself, and Lady Flamo retained the title. I like that they did this, because this way, this protects La Catalina. This way, we didn't have to wait until Triple Mania for her to get an actual shot at the title. They were able to do this triple threat match, and obviously they could have Lady Shanae take the pin, and then we could have the proper match at Triple Mania. If I had to make a guess, it might be night one. That might be like the main event of night one is La Catalina winning the title, which I think would make sense. So yeah, overall great stuff. I really liked week two. I'm gonna give it like a really B plus. I thought it was a great show. But yeah, I think week one was probably the best week. I think week two for me just all the other weeks came off of me just being tired because I had to watch week three after work. So there's that. But yeah, some other news from AAA before I get off here. Um, you know, AAA announced that night one of Triple Mania is being moved. There was so much demand for it that now it's going to be in the MGM Grand Arena. I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be like where SmackDown was slash the Hall of Fame, one of the two, when they had their shows there. So really cool that there was so much demand for Triple Mania that they like basically had to move venues. I think that's really cool. Hopefully that can still sell out. But I think that's really cool. They also announced that we got this announcement in LFG last night. This was really months ago, but they didn't air until last night. That Elijah Holyfield's going to be a part of AAA now. This is going to be unique because he's not really a luchador. And obviously it makes sense because Taker worked with him in LFG, so it'll be interesting to see how he adjusts to the Lucha Libre style. But I think, this will be a good opportunity for him. I think him being there will make him stand out, so it'll be interesting to see what he does in AAA. I imagine we'll see him soon. If I had to make a guess, maybe Triple Mania, or maybe we'll see him at the show that's going to have like the NXT crossover. I don't think they're going to change his gimmick. Like, I don't think they're going to completely revitalize him like with Drake Monroe, since he's Elijah Holyfield's son, or he's Evander Holyfield's son. So be interested to see how he does. And obviously the other big news is Dominic Mysterio isn't happy with his creative direction. He's really confused by it and frustrated about the fact that he's being booked differently in AAA than in WWE. Obviously, this is more on WWE side of things. AAA, he's booked as like a really good, calculated like heel who's always one step ahead of everybody. Whereas in WWE, he's booked basically like a goof who always is taking L's. Hopefully that can change. I think what sucks about it is I actually kind of agree, because in WWE he's playing second fiddle to the Judgment Day, where in AAA he's booked basically like the main event act that he should be, where he's like he has a group centered around him. I think the easiest fix is end in the Judgment Day, and then have JD join up with Dominic Mysterio, have Almost come back to the main roster, have Dorian be around, and that's basically the faction that Dominic can lead. Obviously, if you want to get other members in there, that'd be great too. But, I think Dominic Mysterio just needs that change. He needs to get away from Liv. I think, but we'll see what happens. But that's basically it for WWE Aftershock. This went about a little over an hour and a half. So, and I think I did this without taking a sip of water, which was pretty interesting. Probably not the best idea, but whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. As for stuff you could expect to come out, I think I don't know when I'll do the next episode, because I'm going to my sister's in New Hampshire for like a week, and I'm pretty sure that one of the weeks I go, I won't be able to really get an Aftershock out there, since it will be in the midst of time. I might do that idea again where I try to do WWE Aftershock Extra. Maybe I'll cover tonight's Raw, Tuesday's NXT, Wednesday's Evolve and Main Event together, and then on Wednesday, not this week but next week, I'll cover SmackDown, Raw, and NXT, and then I'll skip Evolve and main event, and then I'll cover SmackDown on its own video. But we'll see what happens. But that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you guys for watching this video. And I'll talk to you guys later.